Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the program. It is the Monday edition, pre-election day, election eve edition of the Michael Dukes Show. And we've got some stuff. We've got some stuff coming up that you're not going to want to miss. Coming up in hour 2 of the program this morning, we're going to be talking with candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Nick Begich, in his final appearance before Election Day. So this is your chance to get his final thoughts before you head out to the ballot box, if you haven't done so already. Many of us have already gone out to the ballot box and voted. And in fact, we've set some records. We have set some records, and this is a good time for us to be talking about that. We'll be discussing that in hour 2. And then here in hour 1, we're going to go over some election day or pre-election day stuff, including some of the ballot measures and some of the things that are happening in the early voting scene, and maybe even some other stuff as well, including education, some changes that may be coming to education as well. So that's what's happening on today's program. Welcome to it. I hope you are feeling great. Sorry, somebody just posted something in the chat room that made me chuckle. Let's talk to our friends down there, though, down on the peninsula. There is another. First one wasn't enough. There is another winter storm warning in effect for the Kenai Peninsula Borough. Heavy snow expected. Total accumulation of 12 to 18 inches. Winds gusting as high as 55 miles per hour. Snow rates of up to 1 to 3 inches per hour in the Turnagain Pass area between 6 a.m. and noon. And that's going to reduce some visibility on the roads to a quarter mile or less. This is high elevations of the Seward Highway, including Turnagain Pass and Summit Lake. And then from 3 a.m. to 4 p.m. tomorrow, you're going to see most of this stuff. And, of course, it's going to create slippery roads and whiteout conditions and gusty winds. There also may be a warmer air mix in and transition to precipitation to a mix of rain. Rain and snow, or just flat rain by Tuesday afternoon. So rain falling onto the snow-covered roadways can create additional hazards. Expects total snow totals on the lower end given the range near Summit Lake. But again, more snow. And I know that I spoke to Dave at the radio station down there yesterday, and he said they got 2 feet of snow in just about 30 hours up there on the top of the hill. So definitely it's going to be one of them snowy winters. It's going to be one of them La Nina, right? That's what they say. It's a La Nina winter, which means wet and warm. But that's going to help create a lot of snow this season. So get used to it, I guess is what I'm saying. Get used to it. Break out the snow shovel. It's gonna be a fun one down there for sure. We definitely did not expect I don't know, I think I got 7 inches on the first snowfall here at the house. Definitely weren't expecting the full 7 inches, and we'll see what goes on from there. Anyway, so that's the winter storm warning for down south, our friends down south. There you go. All right, let's take a look at some of the big stories that are coming out from around the state of Alaska. I'm pulling this over here. I didn't organize myself as I normally do, but let's take a look at it. So votes are pouring in from across the state. In Fairbanks, voters took advantage of the mild weather yesterday. Apparently, the temperatures were up in the mid-20s yesterday, and they stood in line at the Fairbanks election office on Sunday, where it opened at noon. And when they opened, there was already 200 people in line. The Sunday early voting went till 4 p.m., and it will start again this morning at 8 a.m. So if you have not early voted, then today might be the day that you want to do it. And with a snowstorm down on the peninsula, if you get a chance to go by the election office and get voted today, so that maybe because tomorrow, you might want to get your voting done early, is what I'm saying. Same thing happened down in the Anchorage area, both Anchorage and Midtown. Apparently, out at Bogard Road election office, there were 300 people in line at one point. Many were standing out in the cold. When we went to vote last week, my daughter and I, it was standing room only, and it took us about 2 hours to get through the line. And we were inside. We started off just inside the front door, and it took us 2 hours. And there were people outside several times, apparently, from folks that I'd talked to, where there were a line of 100 or so people outside. So people definitely dedicated to getting in there and getting it done. People were happy. People were smiling. It was people were excited to do their duty and their civic duty. Down in Anchorage over the weekend, same thing happens. ADN reporting that there were people, and they got pictures, people wrapped around the building to get in. And it definitely is not something that that I think we're used to seeing quite this much. Early voting, and it's a national trend. There's a trend happening across the country where more and more people are early voting. And I think that this should be the way to go. They interviewed several people in line for this ADN article, and one of the couples said that they both work and that their work schedules kind of got them screwed up, and they didn't get a chance to vote in last election cycle. And so they were they felt bad about not being able to vote, and they wanted to make sure that their voices were heard. And so that's why they came out and spent 2 hours on their Sunday afternoon to stand in line and go vote. And I think that's a good thing as well. So I think we're seeing a big push here. And it's gonna be interesting to see when it's all said and done how it all shakes out, because historically Republicans have been very much only on election day, right? That's their mantras. I'm not going to early vote. I'm not going to, and which I've never understood. I've early voted a couple times before in the past, and I've absentee voted when I wasn't going to be here because I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to, cast my vote and have my vote be heard. And so this, I'm glad to see that Republican voters are embracing this as much as anybody else, especially after I know that historically in the past, Trump and some Trump and some others have poo-pooed early voting and said that that I don't know. Anyway, I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see it, and I hope that more people get involved. And I hope we have a barn burner today. I hope today is a record-breaking early voting day because that makes me happy. Whenever anybody goes out and votes, whoever they vote for, I'm happy to see it because unlike a lot of other places in the country, this is the ultimate expression of our freedom, is being able to have a say in who our elected leaders are. Whether that really makes any difference in the long run or not, but at least we feel good about it, right? At least we feel good about it. All right. So lots of early voting. In fact, the last number, what was the last number that we had? We surpassed the last year's early election numbers on was it on Saturday? I'm just looking to see. I think it was on Saturday. We surpassed last year's early election numbers, and now we're in, we've already done more than we did all of 2020 for early. There it was. According to Jeff Cogden, the regional director who oversees the Anchorage office, says Alaska surpassed its 2020 voting record of early vote numbers on Saturday. And so they've got at least a couple good days of increased votes between now and then. And I think that's going to be good. Now, I hope that this also shows that on election day, we're going to see also an increase in interest. It would be really nice to, move the needle on the overall number of people who vote in this year's election, because it is it's an important one. It's an important election. There's no doubt about it. And it's going to tell us where the country is going to take for its direction in the next 4 years. And, not that, again, as I said a couple of weeks ago, it's not like we will end if one candidate or another, if our favorite candidate or their favorite candidate doesn't get in or gets in, or we will make it. But it's going to be a question of how comfortable is it for us over the next 4 years. So that's going to be the ultimate question here as we get ready for election day, which kicks off tomorrow morning, bright and early, 8 a.m. I hope you're ready. If you haven't voted, go out and vote today, because you just never know what tomorrow could bring. Tomorrow down in the peninsula could bring, what did it say? Could bring 12 to 18 inches of snow, depending on where you're at on the peninsula. So go out there and get her done right now. All right. Well, we're going to continue here. I want to talk a little bit about the ballot measures, and specifically I want to talk about the monies for the one that we really haven't focused too much on, ballot measure number 1. Suzanne Downing did some interesting analysis of that. We're going to cover that here in the next segment. And we'll return. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Hello. How are you this morning? You guys all ready for... You ready for another beautiful, beautiful day? Okay. Jason asks, if elected, will Begich keep coming on the show to keep us informed, or will he ghost us after the election? Well, let's ask him that question this morning, shall we? Put a little star right here next to your question here, Jason, so that I can remember that one. We'll ask him this morning as we go through. Brian says, quick question, best Alaska pickup lines. Is that an F-250 or an F-350? It's the best pickup line I could think of right now. Good morning. I'm waiting for the y'all ain't gonna believe this stuff opening. Yeah. No, Dave called me last night. We were talking about something from the station, and he's like, 2 feet of snow in like 30 hours up on top of the up at the top of the hill there. I mean, that's nutty, man. That's nutty. Bill, stop doing the snow dance. We don't need any more, okay? I'm just saying. Bill's out there sacrificing kittens or whatever he's doing to get the snow to fly. You leave those butterflies alone, Bill. They never hurt anybody. All right. Does the time change affect you, says Rick? No, not really. Because now I don't even think about it because it's on my phone, right? So I use my phone as my alarm clock and everything else. And so I don't even notice it now, really. I don't even notice it. See, it's warm in Fairbanks, 22 degrees. Chris says he's going to Florida for a few months. Oof. Yeah. I mean, it does get to that point in your life where you're like, now I can see why snowbirds like snowbirding. You know what I mean? There's just something about, what time do they open the polls? It's 8 a.m. or is it 7 a.m.? Let me go Google that. Let's see. 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. is what the Division of Election says. So, and they've got a place here. I'll post the link up in the chat room. You can go and you can look up your precinct. There you go. Boom, right there. Come on. There you go. Okay. Well, the good news is that I feel better than I did. I'm not 100% quite yet, but I'm getting there. Good morning. Dodie says it's not a major. It's not a mater. The ghost light. It's not a matter of my favorite candidate. It's a matter of survival. Yeah, I mean, all right. When is the next radio auction? November the 22nd, Frank. November the 22nd will be the next big radio auction. Did you notice that Zeman is actually advertising? I didn't notice that he was actually advertising. But he's probably a little desperate because I think you'll find that he'll be one of the few judges that will probably not be retained. I always vote no on all judges because I'm like, we don't know what's going on with these guys. I've always voted no on all judges. But now I think Zeman is feeling the heat. How come I don't feel like I got an extra hour of sleep at the time change? Because it fell backwards. You lost an hour. That's why, Chris. You do need a vacation. All right, here we go. The Michael Luke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Good morning and welcome back to the program. It is the pre-election day edition of the Michael Duke Show. And I was just going through some of the comments in the chat room out there. Yeah. So election day starts tomorrow, The polls open at 7 a.m. and the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you just type in poll times Alaska into your search engine of choice, you will the first posting there will actually give you a website where if you don't know where your precinct is, you can find it right there. There's a drop down and you use it and away you go. So again, just put in poll times Alaska, and that'll be the first thing that you are shown on the deal there. So go ahead and check it out. All right. Somebody asked me to turn on the phone lines. Well, maybe I will. Maybe I'll turn on the phone lines. But I do have one other story that I want to get to before we go too much further here. And that is a little bit of a look behind the scenes on ballot measure number 1. Now, we've talked a little bit about it in the last 2 weeks, but really it hasn't gotten any real traction. The state requires financials, for these campaigns, and they put it out. And Suzanne Downing took some time to go through it and take a look at what the financials for Yes on One actually showed. Of all the money being spent of the Yes on One campaign, only about $60,000 was contributed by $60,000 of the $2.6 million being spent. Only about $60,000 of it actually came from Alaska organizations. And those organizations were 4 labor unions. One outside funder, the Fairness Project of Washington, D.C., provided at least $1.5 million in money and technical expertise, including a $1.1 million wire transfer on September 9th to the Yes on One group. The Fairness Project is running 7 similar ballot measure campaigns across the country. According to NPR, the Fairness Project is a left-leaning advocacy group and has created a playbook for using ballot initiatives to go around GOP-led state legislators. Since 2016, it has backed successful initiatives to raise minimum wage and to expand Medicaid. The funds are largely being funneled to the Ship Creek Group, which is a Democratic political strategy company. Other political operators are getting their fair share, however, for handling various media transaction and outreach duties. The financial disclosure statements published by APOC show that the campaign ballot measure No on One has about 30 contributors total. That's it, 30 contributors. The 4 unions, NEA Alaska, Service Employees International Union, AK, Teamsters Local 959, and ASEA Local, were the only 4 Alaska organizations that were contributed. The rest of it is all outside dark. I'm sorry. Dark. Nope. Dark money. Sorry, that was the button. I pushed the wrong one. It is the dark money. So there you go. So that would be why a Yes on One is to give in to dark money. A Yes on One is to give in to dark money, and you should stop right now. So it's No on One, Yes on Two, and that's if you love me, that's how I recommend you vote. You should check it out. All right. I did. I went ahead and opened up the phone lines. If somebody wants to call in, I mean, why not? I mean, I usually do this on the day before election. I open up the phone lines and I spend some time telling folks, who are you voting for and why, or have you already voted? If you've already voted, you can call in and tell us why you early voted. If you've never early voted, here's what I'm interested in. If you've never early voted before and you never considered it, why did you do it this time? What made you early vote? 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. If you want to sound off and tell us this morning why you early, if you've never early voted before, maybe you haven't been a fan, maybe you just never had the opportunity, maybe you were really against it, but you decided to do it. I want to know, what's the change? What is the change? I'll be honest, for me, it was a matter of I just didn't know how much time I was going to have on election day. I got a lot of things going on, and I thought it would be best to just get it done, get it out of the way. Between that and the wild weather we've been having here the last couple weeks, I thought that probably would prevent, just in case there's some, insane snowstorm or ice storm or, snowpocalypse or something, that I could avoid. I could avoid the rush or feeling stressed and trying to get in there and do it. And so here we are. It's all done, and it feels good. It feels good. And I got free ice cream out of it. The dentist office upstairs on Bogard, if you went upstairs after you voted with your sticker, they gave you a little ice cream cone. Which, I mean, hey, I was sick and probably shouldn't have eaten the dairy, but it was delicious. What am I going to say? It was absolutely delicious. So there you go. But if you want to sound off and tell us, why you voted or who you voted for, then go out there and do it. 319-527-3864. Brian says, Michael Dukes made me do it. The beard compelled me. You are compelled by the beard. You are compelled by the beard. There you go. Go out there and get it done. Today is the final day, and the polls do open. The early voting opens at 8 a.m. this morning. It goes from 8 to 5 today, and then the official polls on Election Day are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And feel free to go out there and do your thing. Okay. People are now they're talking about daylight savings time. How does daylight savings time affect you? It doesn't anymore. Back in the day when I really had to keep track of it and I had to walk around the house and change all the clocks, and your wristwatch or whatever, I then you noticed it. These days, I barely noticed it, because everybody uses their cell phones as their clocks or their phones, or that's connected to their watches or whatever. And so it automatically adjusts in the middle of the night when you're asleep. And I didn't even barely notice it. I mean, I would much rather spring forward and gain an hour than fall back and lose an hour. But, I didn't even notice it. It's one of those things. All right. Let me talk about, where was I? I talked about that. Okay. Let me talk about a little bit about what's going on in education. And this is going to be, no, you know what? I'm going to talk about this real quick before we go, because this is important. And by the way, the number to call if you'd like to sound off and tell me why you voted early or who you voted for, 319-527-3864. Mary Peltola has been skirting the law for quite a while. She used the whole free beer thing in Fairbanks, which is a violation. The usage of public schools for campaign purposes, which is a violation. And now she's using her congressional stationery to make a case for her reelection, which is potentially, it skirts the line right up to it, of violating federal law. According to the Federal Register, members of Congress are prohibited from sending mass mailings to constituents within 60 days of an election. Now, you and I talked about this here about 2.5-3 months ago, when Mary Peltola's office sent out what they called franking letters. Franking is the name of the law that, anyway, it's letters that are paid for by her personal office funds. It's paid for by you, the taxpayer. And essentially, it was a boast letter that went out to say, look at all the great things that Mary Peltola has done for you. And then she did franking, she did radio ads that were franking ads as well, paid for by that same fund, that same funding mechanism. But that stopped 60 days ahead of time, right? Because that's what the law is. Well, now they may have found a way to skirt that law or get around it. According to the law, it says a member may not send any unsolicited mass mailing or mass communication less than 60 days immediately before the date of any primary or general election in which the member is a candidate for public office. The law specifies that no more than 499 letters may go out in any mailing during the 2 months prior to election. Peltola is apparently scamming the law by sending out mass mailers that all start out the same but have different messages. So she's sending out several different versions of the same letter, and so I guess they're trying to say that doesn't qualify as a mass mailing. We do quite a few things better in Alaska than who do our friends in the lower 48s. That's how the whole thing starts. And then everything else in the letter talks about her different things: funding for women, infant, and children, funding a new icebreaker, a group about, messages about fisheries. And so apparently she's got a handful of these letters that all start out the same, but all have a different body inside of them. And so even though all letters are essentially the same, she may have limited each to 499 to make it legal within the technical threshold. So the question is that skirting the letter of the law? I mean, if you send out 10 groups of letters that are 499, letters large in each one, I mean, have you violated the law if I only sent out 499 and I got 10 different letters, each one says 10 different things? I may have sent out 5,000 letters, but I'm still within the law. I mean, this is a chick that has got the most funded campaign for re-election in Alaska history. Was it like $12 million or something right now? She's run through most of her $12 million in campaign, and that was just her money. That's not all the money that came from the PACs and the other sides and everything else. So I guess my question is, I mean, if you only send out 499 letters, but you do it 10 times, is that violating the law? Is that skirting the law? Does that count as the, mass mailing? I mean, if I sent out 500 letters, to me, that would be a mass mailing to begin with. But I mean, if I sent out 5,000 or 4,999 letter, wouldn't that be the same thing? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with right now. They are so desperate to hold on to that seat that they will do nearly anything to keep things rolling. And we're seeing it right here, right now. And I hope somebody is keeping track of this, and so that somebody later can file some kind of appeal or claim, or with APOC or the FEC or whoever they need to file with over some of these violations, because it's just wrong. If a Republican held a rally or hold a campaign function inside of a school, that somebody would lose their mind, but because she did it, it's okay. I mean, I got no problem banning people from doing certain things with certain, but it should be equitable. And that's my problem here, is that it's the inequitability of this kind of treatment that bothers me more than anything else. All right, we got to go. We're going to continue here in just a minute. Nick Begich is going to be joining us at the top of the hour. We'll return. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Don't go anywhere. Back with more right after this.
Dark money.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
I mean, that's what I thought. I thought, Rick says, you're correct. It's a mass mailing. That's what I thought. I thought it was a mass mailing. If you do 499 and you do it 10 times, that's kind of a mass mailing, man. That's kind of how that works. All right. Frank says, I never early voted till this year. Figured 1, there would be long lines, and 2, move my voting place out of my way. Okay, there you go. It's ironic that dark money is such an issue to conservatives, as the Citizen United case that allowed dark money was brought by Citizens United and was approved by a very conservative Supreme Court. I was never a huge fan of Citizens United, Kyle, but, I mean, I guess we use what we got at this point. Sandy says they raised the charges to felony assault on the Peninsula troopers that beat the heck out of that guy. Over 150 warrant. That was the wrong guy. The dog also tore him up. Yeah, I know. My VCR is wrong, says Brian. You have a VCR? You still have a VCR? Okay. That says a lot, Brian. Okay. I'm going, what? Okay. I had 2 wall clocks. My vehicle clock all had to be changed. Yeah, no, they all have to be changed. I know that's the problem, right? Is like, I don't change my, I don't change the, for one time, I didn't change the clocks on my wall for the longest time in my living room. And my wife's like, are you going to get up and change that? And I'm like, I will. And then I never did until the daylight saving time came back. Oh, man. Oh, man. Yeah, using your son in the military uniform photos, that was another thing that Peltola did. Yeah. How about once it's been recorded, the person has voted? Oh. Well, yeah, that was the thing, Richie. That's what I was saying. I mean, I wish we could get like a special code that, we could plug into our internet engines or whatever, that once we voted, we put the code in and we don't see any more political ads on our YouTube or on our browsers or whatever. Okay, going through here. If you think that's bad, wait till Murkowski runs again. Yeah, it's a violation of the Hatch Act. That's what that was. She used her son's service and pictures doing government activities. Debbie said, first time early voting, really against it, decided the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Best experience, in and out in over 20 minutes. I don't understand why people have such a hard time with early voting. I really don't. I've done it, like I said, I've done it, I think, twice before. Twice before. This may be my second or third time early voting. Layla maybe is pointing out why some people have problems with it. Early voting today may not have digital scanners, which means your ballot goes into an unsecured box that you have to trust won't be tampered with. I voted a week ago, and it wasn't substantially different from going day of. I think early voting is wrong. Our Constitution prescribes a day, not a season, and I don't leave my ballot in the hands of state workers. I mean, I could see that. If we could trust the state to actually do a decent job, the state being state and federal, if we could trust them to do a decent job in actually putting election day together, then maybe we could all vote on election day. And if we could all take election day off and actually go out and do it and all get it done, maybe that's what it, Okay. I feel bad for the mail service during election years. Leighton Radner says, candidate here for District 5, I couldn't agree with you more. As far as the double standards are absurd. Can a complaint be filed now, says Tawny? I mean, I'm assuming a complaint could be filed now against Peltola, but nobody's done it, you know? What? Melissa said, I got a phone call on Saturday from some guy claiming to be Derek who screamed something about how I shouldn't vote for Nick. I'm sure it was a recording, but these people stoop low. This recording was just a crazed screaming rant. Well, that's going to help him. That's going to help him for sure. That crazed screaming rant will help everybody. Oh, man. Okay. All right. I'm running out of time here. We got to jump back into it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do this thing. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
All right, welcome back to the program. Thanks for coming in and joining us. Oh, man. People were like, I was asking people, why don't you like early voting? Why are you against early voting? And Layla actually put forward an interesting comment. She said, remember, early voting today may not have the digital scanners, which means your ballot goes into an unsecured box that you have to trust won't be tampered with. As opposed to being digitally scanned and then worrying about some hacker or some bad actor getting into the numbers afterwards. I see your point. She said, I voted a week ago and it wasn't substantially different from going on election day, but I think early voting is wrong. Our Constitution prescribes a day, not a season, and I don't leave my ballot in the hands of state workers who, as union members, have a vested interest in Democrats winning. I could see the point. I definitely could see the point. And I think that if we had an election system, an office, a division that could, do a good job, that could handle the amount of flow required to do it all in one day. And maybe we had employers who allowed people to take off early to go vote or take part of the day off to go vote. That would make a lot of sense. But we've got a division, election division that can't. Well, let me just read you the latest headline. State election officials sent the wrong ballots to early voters in Southwest Alaska. More than 90 voters in Dillingham, Aniak, and King Salmon were given incorrect ballots for the November election. Voters who cast early in-person absentee ballots in Dillingham, King Salmon, and Aniak had been erroneously given ballots for the 4th Judicial District, despite the fact that the communities are located in the 3rd Judicial District, according to Division of Elections Director Carol Beecher. Ballots with the incorrect names of judges up for retention votes were sent to several absentee in-person voting locations. That led 85 voters in Dillingham, 1 from King Salmon, and 5 voters from Aniak to cast incorrect ballots, according to a tally shared on Saturday. Beecher said the division's in the process of contacting all affected voters. She said voters will be given the opportunity to cast a new ballot at the early absentee voting location or vote on election day. She said the division will retain all absentee ballots for the incorrect ballot. If one of the affected voters casts a new ballot on election day or earlier, their ballots will be destroyed and the second one will be counted. And if they choose not to revote, the ballots will be counted except for the incorrect Judicial District, Superior Court, and District Judge retention votes. Let me tell you how bad this, well, first and foremost, what is wrong with you people? This is the 3rd major boo-boo by the Division of Elections. Okay? This is the 3rd major boo-boo. that they have put forward so far in this election season. So the fact that you would think that somehow they would be able to handle an influx of 150,000 voters in a single day, I'm thinking that may be a problem. All right, just based on their current track record. But here's what kills me. The one of the people that was affected by this vote was Bryce Edgmond. One of the residents who cast an incorrect ballot was Representative Bryce Edgmond. He said he typically votes to retain all judges, but it took him several days to realize the names of the judges he'd voted on were not what those he had expected. He said, quote, "It dawned on me afterwards, but it was not something that a lot of people, including myself, are intimately familiar with." He said he cast his ballot several days before election officials realized the problem. In the aftermath, after seeing the opposition to Judge Zeman, I realized, wait a second, isn't he in my judicial district? It's a nuance that I regret not picking up on the spot, but I was in a hurry and I voted quickly. Okay, so here's my thing. If you just blithely vote yes on retaining all the judges, and you don't even notice the judges' names. And the only reason you recognize Zeman is because there's a huge campaign going on against him right now for retention. It's one of the first times, or maybe the second time that I remember, where anybody was fighting not to retain a judge. Maybe we're not doing something right. Maybe we're not doing something right in this retention of judges. Because, I mean, I don't know. Who here actually read through the names of the judges on their list? I did. I read through the names. Didn't recognize any of them except for Zeman. Voted to not retain any of them. Why? Because I don't know anything about them. There is no educational process on why I should retain a judge. There is no process to understand, is the judge doing a good job or a bad job? I mean, when one of the most politically active legislators out there goes in and takes him days to realize that he didn't have the right judges on his ticket, that says something. How is the average person supposed to be paying attention to that? I mean, it's just it's crazy. And this deal with this whole deal with this division of election things, that this is the third major boo-boo that we've seen so far. And I guess I haven't counted they lost that one bag of ballots that were found out by the airport and some other things. I mean, I just don't know. This is Beecher's first time overseeing a general statewide election since she was appointed to the position last year by Lieutenant Governor Nancy Dahlstrom. Both Dahlstrom and Beecher did not respond to interview requests. The Division of Elections Nome Regional Director Jeremiah Angasuk is also a recent hire. He was appointed to the position earlier this year and oversees voting in Southwest Alaska, Western Alaska, Northwest Alaska, and the North Slope. But I mean, it's just and then of course at the end of this article they mentioned Kathy Tilton's appearance on my show and how they were trying to stop Mary Peltola with their whole vote curing process, which is just a continued repetition of a lie, but no big deal. That's what happens. But I mean, how are we? I mean, I understand what Layla was trying to say when she said she didn't like early voting because she didn't want to put the ballots in the hands of election workers and count that it was going to be secure. Well, again, I mean, you can put all your ballots into the voting machine and then you worry about whether or not that could be hacked, or you put your ballots in a box and you're worried about somebody could go in there and stuff the box or change things. I mean, there is a worry on all those things. But for me, I wanted to get it done. I was worried. I've been worried about the weather. I got a lot of things happening in my life, and I wanted to make sure that I got out and got a chance to vote in this election for the candidates that I want to see win. And so ultimately, that's why I voted early. But again, I don't have I don't have a, I guess I don't have I guess I don't have a rising anxiety about what, either, because if I feel like, well, if I don't vote on election day, my thing doesn't get scanned and it's going to go in there and I'm going to worry about it. Well, that's fine. So either they're going to have my physical ballot or they're going to, if I scan it in, now do I worry about whether or not the machine can be manipulated or hacked or whatever? I just want to go vote. So I'm going to put it there and then I'm going to put it in God's hands and we'll just see where it goes from there. But I think a lot more people are kind of feeling that way. They wanted to get it done. Several people in the chat room said that they voted because they were worried about the weather. Others said they just wanted to get it out of the way so that they didn't have to worry about it on election day. And who was it that it was Debbie that said she said first time early voting. She says, I'm really against it, but decided that the needs of the many outweighed the needs of the few. Best experience, in and out in under 20 minutes, she said, which is the exception, not the rule from what I've seen, because it's, most of these early voting locations are like, they're packed. But she got in and out. So there you go. We'll have to see what comes of it here. All right. We will continue here. We've got I just looked up where I realized we're coming up at the end of the hour. So we're going to be continuing here. We got a candidate, Nick Begich, is going to be joining us in hour 2. And we're going to talk with him about the final days of his candidacy here. And we're going to see if he's got any internal polling. We're going to ask that question that I think it was Jason. Yep, Jason asked earlier. He asked a question in the chat room, which we're going to talk with Mark about, or Nick about. I said Mark, didn't I? We're going to talk with Nick Begich about. All right, we're going to continue with more right after this. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more, and Nick Begich right after this. Okay. My work schedule won't allow it. Not a big fan of everything, but it has its place, says Ron. So he apparently early voted for that. Rick said he got a call from a Peltola guy offering rides to the polls. Make sure he mentioned Peltola about 3 or 4 times. Yeah. Let's see. I voted yesterday. They had no lines in Soldovia, says Chris. Good for you guys there. What? I didn't hear that. Deshana says, did you hear that Deshana, where you been? Just realized I haven't seen Deshana in a while. Did you hear that the ASD have a remote learning day tomorrow so folks can go vote? I heard this is the first time that's ever been done. What you think? I hadn't heard that. Interesting. My state ballot was scanned, says Tawny. My borough ballot was not because the Matsu does hand counting, but the box was locked. When I went in, they dropped both of them into boxes. Neither one of them was scanned. My early vote one was in an envelope with my signature and everything on the outside and sealed. My borough one just went into a locked box. I don't vote. I always vote no on every judge, says Willie. They were selected by the Alaska Bar, which means they're 80% registered dimwits. I just vote no because you don't know anything about them. I mean, Bryce Edgman didn't know for days that he'd voted for all the wrong judges. I mean, if that's not an indication that there's something busted in that process, I don't know. I don't know anything else about him. Odom Harris. Yeah, let's vote for Odom Harris on the ranked choice balloting. Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. Oh, is it misting outside? Oh, that's great, Rick. Thank you for the heads up on that. Little rain, little snow, little whatever. All right. I see the man, the myth, the legend is off in the green room. Hello, my friend. What be the hap there, sir? What's going on?
Well, I can only be with you for 30 minutes this morning because I'm going to early vote myself at 7:30. So run down to Eagle River and hop in the line and pray it's not 2 hours.
Good luck with that, because I think you're going to find that it's I told my daughter, I said, we're going to go over here and vote real quick. It's like 1:45 in the afternoon. It'll be fine. 2 hours later, it was. Yeah, 2 hours of waiting in line with everybody else. It was quite a deal. I thought it was going to get, but I was like, well, I'm here. I'm not gonna to take off. So it's good. How's everything going, my friend? How you feeling?
Feel good. Everybody's working. We got a great team, and we got a team that's statewide. We've been sending text messages and large phone banking operation. There's a ton of people that are out there door knocking. It's a full court press, and it has been since the beginning, as you know. But we are we're not leaving any box unchecked. We're doing every single thing that a campaign knows to do, and a few things that we're trying out for the first time on the campaign. But we're working full tilt all the way to the finish line.
All right. Before we get into it here, somebody asked a question, and since we've got about 2 minutes before we start the show, I'm going to use every minute that I can here. If elected, will Begich keep coming on the show to keep us informed, or will he ghost us after the election? Because this is a standard thing. I used to ask candidates all the time, will you come in and visit with us? And they'd be like, oh yeah. And some of them would, but a lot of them would be like once, twice, and then 3 years of nothing until election season. And then they want to come back on, So will you keep coming on, Nick, or will you ghost this? Because you'll be super important then, right? I mean, you'll be super important as a congressman. And so will you have time for a little radio show?
Yeah, I think one of the disappointing things about what we've seen from our current representative is that she's never on a show like this. At least not that I've ever seen.
Nope.
And
I've never had her.
You're going to represent people. You have to be able to talk to people, and this is one of the great ways to do it, to be able to interact with folks, and the way that you have your chat room set up and the way you can take feedback both on the radio and online simultaneously, I think is great. Yes, the short answer is yes. I'll be back on the show, and it won't be once or twice. I don't know that we can do it every 2 weeks if we win, but we're going to make it regular because it's important for people to know what's happening back in DC, more of the mechanics and the ins and outs of what's happening on a committee, where are bills at. And I think that's an important thing that's been missing for Alaskans for a while.
No, I would think that maybe if we could have you on once a month, that would probably be a good time. And since it takes place about lunchtime in DC, maybe we could hang out while you eat your sandwich or something. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what's going on. All right. Well, Nick Begich is our guest. We're going to continue here. Nick, hold the line. I'm going to pull you back into the green room real quick. We're going to continue. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff, and make sure you tell your friends and families to go out and early vote. Let's do this thing. Here we go.
Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Welcome to hour 2 of the pre-election day coverage for the Michael Dukes Show. We've got one final guest here before election day. Joining us right now from an undisclosed secret location is candidate for U.S. House Nick Begich. He joins us this morning to talk about the final days of the campaign here. And we've only got him for about a half hour, so he's going to go early vote today. So we welcome him on the program. Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing this morning?
You know, it's another good day. I already voted. I voted last Friday, and I'm happy to see that everything's that's a trend with everybody. We're going to see it's been huge, Nick. I mean, this has been a big deal, and you're going to go early vote this morning as well. You said you hoped it doesn't take 2 hours. I'm probably here to disappoint you, but we'll see. Whatever it takes, we'll get it done. The campaign has really come down, and we're seeing in these last few days kind of the desperation of the Peltola campaign. As they can see, they've expended their $12 million war chest, and then, of course, they had all the PACs that were out there spending money left and right for them. And I think the polling that I've heard about, and I don't know if you guys have done any internal polling or have seen any, but it's looking like this is her race to lose at this point. I mean, she's struggling, and I think that's a good sign for Alaskans.
Yeah, it's we've seen similar things in our internal polling that she is in a challenging spot right now. But the reality is there's a lot on the ballot that we need to make sure that we're voting for. We've got Donald Trump, we've got our race, we've got state House and state Senate candidates, we've got the ballot measures. There's a lot of reasons for people to show up and vote this year. But I tell folks, look, it's worth waiting. If you got to wait in line, do it. But if you're an election day voter, make sure you do it. The great thing about the early voting that we've seen this year is if you're a 90% chance that you're going to vote on election day, if you say, look, I'm an election day voter, I'm 90% sure I'll be there. Over a large population, let's take 100,000 just for easy math. If 100,000 people think that way and 10% of them don't show up on election day, that's 10,000 votes that we don't have. And so the election day, or rather the early day vote that we've been seeing, is really great, even for high propensity voters, people who have a high chance of voting on election day, because a 90% voter that becomes a 100% voter by voting early over a large set of people makes a massive difference in the election outcomes across the state.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we just don't know. I mean, look at what's going on tomorrow. Big snowstorm down on the Kenai Peninsula. Supposed to be 12 to 18 inches of snow tomorrow, potentially on parts of the Kenai. So we saw what happened in Fairbanks. The first day of early voting, they didn't get to early vote because the locations were shut down. We had the snow here and the shutdown in Anchorage as well. I mean, this is going to be an interesting winter. And so we need to make sure that we get a chance to get out there and get our voices heard. What do you say to people? Somebody said earlier, we were talking about early voting, and I asked people why the hesitation, and a couple people had said they're concerned about security of ballots because the ballots don't get scanned. Layla said that they don't have digital scanners, which means your ballots goes into an unsecured box and you just have to trust that it won't be tampered with. She said she did vote a week ago, but it wasn't substantially different, but she doesn't think that early voting is right. She said her constitution prescribes a day and not a season, and I don't like leaving my ballots in the hands of state workers. What's your comment to people like that who feel that way? Which, I mean, they're totally allowed to have those feelings. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of concern about vote integrity and things like that, and I can understand it. But to me, the difference between scanning it in and worrying about hackers, or writing it in and having somebody worried about it being in a box, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But what's your position on that?
Well, it's interesting because what I've heard on the other side is, that we want to move away from the machines. So we would prefer hand counting, and we've seen the Matsu Valley do that in their municipal elections, and other folks around the state talk about that. So I think there's concerns all over the place. I think you've got rational concerns around the machines. You got rational concerns around chain of custody for ballots, and these are just normal concerns that anyone would have in securing any system, whether it's voting or a chain of custody for finances. This is just normal things that you need to be looking at to ensure the security of a chain of custody of a ballot or goods or anything in a supply chain. So I think the concerns are always worth looking into. Look, what I've said many times, even on this show, is in 2016, we had Democrats across the country call the election illegitimate. We had concerns in 2020. What we see is a bipartisan crisis of confidence in our election system. And anything that we can do to drive transparency, we should do. But I do think early voting is important. I think, particularly in a state like Alaska, where weather can be an issue. I mean, if you're perhaps in, the South, down in a place like Florida or Texas, where it's unlikely at this time of year that you're going to have a disruptive weather event that's going to prevent you from getting to the polls, I understand their perspective might be different. But for us, where you can get 12 to 18 inches of snow in a day, you've got elderly people who can't necessarily make it to the polls in those conditions. It does, in my view, make sense to have an extended voting opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, like we said before, I mean, whether when there's concerns about election integrity, whether they're, again, true or not, the mere fact that they're out there, that shakes a cornerstone of the American system. And so you have to make sure that things are secure, so that both sides, like you said, 2016, the Dems said it was bad. 2020, the Republicans said it was bad. We've got to find a way to make sure that those fears are quelled and taken care of, for sure. In these last final days here, Nick, what have you seen? What are the hot button issues that have come up in the campaigns back and forth in these last few days that they've been trying to make hay with?
Well, it's interesting because so much of the what we've seen in our data as we watch where people are at over time, the number of undecideds, of course, has dropped dramatically. So there's very few people left that haven't made a decision yet. And so all the messaging that you're seeing, all the incredible amounts of money that are being spent, the truth is a lot of it is just wasted because and most of what you're seeing on TV, if you're curious, you say, well, if that's true, why are you wasting? Well, because that money is coming from third parties. So much of what you're seeing right now on TV, some on radio, but mostly on television, broadcast television, is just third party money that's just flooded into the state. This is the most expensive House race in our state's history. And I was told yesterday it could be the most expensive House race in the entire country, one of the most expensive in history. And so your eyes are not deceiving you. There are way more ads, there are way more mailers than you've ever seen in a race like this in the state. But I just don't think it's doing a lot to convince people at this point. I think it just kind of locks in, crystallizes the electorate at the moment. But I think that what we're seeing too is, and what we've seen in our data is that people have had an opportunity now to dig in to the candidates and see who knows the issues, who represents the values that that specific voter has. What we've tried to do, especially on social media, is just push the facts. Just look at the information. We've even got a post out on our Facebook page and our Twitter account that just says, look, here are the debates. If you're undecided, here are the debates. Watch them, decide for yourself, be informed, and go vote. And you know what? If after watching those debates, you believe that your vote belongs with Mary Peltola, okay, great. If you believe that vote belongs with me, great. But do it from an informed perspective. And that's what we're trying to do, is let's put the policies out there so that people can see how someone's going to vote, what they're going to be doing in DC, what their priorities are for the state of Alaska and for the country, and then walk into that voting booth. Forget all the ads. Forget what someone can pump into a 30-second ad. Look at the long form, 1 hour, 2 hour debates, and then make a decision.
Well, especially with there's been so much misinformation and flat out lies that have been put forward by various campaigns, not just in your race, but in the ranked choice race and other things else. You're going to eliminate all the fish and the butterflies will die, and it's astonishing. And like you said, I think most people have probably made their decision. And it's a little too late right now as we get into it, but it's the amount of misinformation and the inability to try and police some of that is kind of crazy as well. I know you've had several ads against you, not just from your opponent, but from outside groups that have had, just falsehoods just in the ad.
That's right. It's just blatant lies. So much of this stuff is just absolutely invented. And on the one hand, you want to fight it, right? And I do. That's my tendency internally, is to just get out there and fight back hard. But the problem is, if you do that, that's what they're wanting you to do, right? They want to make that issue their issue. And so, we do what we can to call them out on it, but we've got to run our own campaign. It's unfortunate that politics, not just in this race, as you point out, across the state and across the country, has devolved to this point where we can't focus on policy. We have people out there that want to get into personal destruction. They're willing to lie in order to achieve an outcome. And the truth is, the truth. The truth is the truth. We have to be focused on what's true and real. And that's what we've stuck with the whole campaign. Everything that we say is backed up with facts. And for people who take the time and dig into it, and there's a lot of people who have, they see that. And Mary Peltola, I believe, has lost a lot of support because of the lies that have been told, either directly from her campaign or through third parties that appear to be her campaign when viewed by your standard voter out there.
Yeah, no, on your behalf. That's the worst part, is when things on your behalf are being said. We'll continue here. Nick Begich is our guest. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
Okay, Nick Begich is our guest here as we continue on through the thing. Tawny says, "Did you see the mailer with Mark's name, not yours, on it?" Said Tawny. Low information third party funders. You got somebody out there using your uncle's name in the great. That's
I did not see that one. I didn't see that one, but I know there was a third party group that said that they were opposing Mark Begich in this race, and they actually filed a report with the FEC to that effect for about a week before they corrected it. So it's funny because there's so much. I was going through the post office the other day, and I'm walking through the post office. It's late at night. I'm coming home from a meeting, and I see this gentleman, and he clearly hadn't checked his mail in a few days. He had a huge stack, and he's just throwing these mailers out, just boom, boom, one after the next. And he couldn't fit them in the garbage can because it was already full of these mailers, so they were just stacking them on top of the trash. And I said, "You got a little junk mail there?" And he said, yeah. I said, "Well, I'm sorry about that." But I will tell you, our campaign had never sent a single mailer. We didn't do that. We did not put the money in the mail. If you're seeing mailers from my campaign that appear to be from my campaign, we've never sent one. So that is all third party. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to. I don't normally check the mail. The kids usually check the mail, but I did about a week and a half ago, and it was. I mean, it was a wad. There was probably 30 flyers in there, and I'm like, do these people? And I'm just pitching them. Do these people think that this is actually doing any good to But I mean, I know they're trying to catch that voter that hasn't made the decision at the last minute. But I mean, at this point, if you haven't decided the day before election day who you're voting for, I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what's left at that point. I just don't know what is left for what's going on. Nick, let's see, we got about 2.5 minutes here. What how are you going to spend election day? What's your thing on election day?
Yeah, I mean, election day, so much of what's happened, really, I think of election day as sort of everything's baked in at that point. I hate to say that, but people, when you think about early vote and absentee is going to be probably 30 to 40% of the electorate. So then you're dealing with 60 to 70%. By the time you hit noon on election day, a large chunk of that's already come in. So for campaigns, if you're planning to campaign on election day, you should have done that work before. So
Right.
we are, we're going to be doing the sign waving. We're going to be making phone calls. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep going all the way through. But the work that we put in over the last 18 months is where the real work was, right? So today I'm going to be voting, as I mentioned, early this morning. And then I'm going to be doing media. I'll be doing other radio shows today. I'm going to be making phone calls to undecided voters. And I'll be spending some time with the team here in the final moments to thank them for all the work that they've done, for those who are here in Anchorage, and just appreciate them, because people have taken time away from their daily lives to volunteer on the campaign. People have, the staff has worked far more than you would expect them to. I mean, we've got people that work until midnight some nights, crunching numbers and going through data, doing everything from just, making those phone calls, door knocking. They're out in the cold. And I just appreciate that kind of effort. It's not about me. It's about the state of Alaska. It's about getting our seat back and getting a representation that truly reflects the center of gravity, the political center of gravity of our state. So when we go down there, we're speaking with a voice that reflects the people back home. So folks are energized by that. They've been spending a lot of their personal time, and here in the last 24, 48 hours, I'll be spending a lot of time with them, thanking them for the effort that they've put in over the last year and a half.
And I'm glad to see that you have highlighted the debates, because the debates for me were, I mean, it was eye-opening. It was very eye-opening to see her go against you on having specificity and questions, and the difference was very clear and apparent in those debates. Anybody who has a question, just go watch one of those debates and you'll see the differences between the two of you, and I think that's important. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
That's right. Nick Begich is our guest candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives. Nick's been good. Somebody just said they've used my show for more sound bites for Nick than probably any other thing here lately. I get this little news alert in my email that says they mentioned the show, and it's like, the HuffPost and this and then that, the other thing, and USA Today, and I'm like, okay, at least we're getting some exposure for you, Nick. One way, I guess all news is good news. Is that what the thing is?
I don't know about that, but I'll tell you this, like, right, straightforward, straight up. A lot of people who are running for office quickly realize that if they go out in the media and they talk too much, they may say something that they didn't want to say. And the reality is, the left, what I've come to understand is that they are going to take anything. If they don't have anything, they will create something to go after you. And so, for folks out there who've thought about running or think, may run in the future, don't be afraid to come on the shows. This is an opportunity to interact with the public. You actually learn a lot when you're interacting with folks and they're asking you the tough questions. I think it's important. And yeah, they've taken some clips, quite frankly, deceptively from
absolutely.
our time on the show, but that doesn't deter me one bit from coming on and talking about the issues that matter to Alaskans. And
But it can't stop you. Yeah, it can't stop you because you've got to be able to still have your voice be heard and say what you need to say. People are going to take stuff out of context regardless of where you do it.
That's
And
right.
if they get away with it, and then it'll show that eventually somebody will say, well, that was out of context, and it'll go away. And that's what I mean. James Brooks at the Alaska Beacon wrote the article when you appeared on the show. He talked about how that was totally taken out of context. And I thought that was interesting to see that even somebody from a more progressive piece is like, wait, that wasn't right. Nick, we're coming. We don't have a lot of time here left. What is your, Nick wins the election. What's your first month look like? What are you focusing on when you get down there? Obviously, get your feet under you, but where are you going from there?
Yeah, you got to staff up quick. That's important. You got to transition anything from the existing office to the new office. A lot of casework that happens inside of these offices needs to be transferred over to a new team. A new team comes in. But I've said many times on this show, and I've said on throughout the state, my priority in that first segment of time is to get as much of our rights restored in must-pass legislation. So when you look at the first set of legislative priorities in the next Congress, you're going to be talking about the budget reconciliation bill. And the budget reconciliation bills are unique because they're the only kind of legislation that can go through the House to the Senate and not require 60 votes. There's a 50 vote plus one tiebreaker threshold to get through the Senate. So it's unique because it gives you an express vehicle to get things done. Now, there are rules around what can go into one of those budget reconciliation bills. They have to have a budgetary impact in order to do so. So you can't get everything for Alaska in that set of legislation, but you can get some things. And so what I've started talking with House leadership, Speaker Mike Johnson, Majority Leader Steve Scalise, Majority Whip Tom Emmer, about is how do we take as many of these executive orders that were issued by the Biden administration and help to permanently repeal them through legislative action and restore as many as we can of Alaska's rights to produce resources and access the resources that we do have. So that's the goal in the first 100 days. Of course, should I be elected, I'll be working with House Republicans to pass other important legislation that deals with inflation, that deals with securing our most southern border, and so many of the other priorities that we've talked about on the campaign. But when it comes to Alaska, it's going to be how do we restore as many of our rights as possible?
And how do we reintroduce arithmetic to the Congress, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's the other thing is how do we, that's Nick and I's favorite topic is the basic maths. The basic maths are important for sure. All right, Nick, I guess you got to go here pretty quick. So I'll give you the last couple minutes here. Any, final thoughts, exhortations, people, are you going to be waving signs or seeing people? Are you having where's your watch party, et cetera, what's going on?
We're going to be at the Marriott tomorrow night in Anchorage. So if you're in Anchorage and you want to stop by, Marriott's a place to be. It'll be a good time for a watch party. But look, we're not done. So let's make sure. You may say to yourself, well, I've already voted. I checked the box. I'm going to give you a little assignment. Okay. And I'm sorry to give you a little assignment, but it's important. It's something everybody can do. Just put together a little text message. It shows who you're voting for. Maybe why you're voting for those people, but just put that message together. Encourage people around you to vote. Just copy and paste that message to maybe 100 or 200 contacts in your phone. It'll take you 10 minutes to do that. And if you do that, you're going to help people who may not be as politically attuned as you are, may not have time or the ability to pay attention to it the way you do. Maybe it's not their interest, but they want to vote. Help them figure out to vote, remind them to vote, and encourage them to go to the polls either today or tomorrow on Tuesday, Election Day, and make their voice heard. If you do that, you can make a major difference in this campaign and in other campaigns around the state. So please take 10, 15 minutes, copy and paste a text message reminding people to go vote, maybe tell them how you're voting. And if you do that, you'll help to create the change that we're all hoping to see after Tuesday.
All right. Well, Nick Begich, he's headed out to go do his early voting duties here and to get it all done. And hopefully it doesn't take you a full 2 hours to get it done. You got a lot of stuff going on the next 2 days, I'm assuming, Dick.
That's right. Yep. Lots going on.
All right. Well, Nick Begich, candidate for U.S. House. Thank you, my friend, for being part of it today. We appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you again here in the future.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. Appreciate it. Nick Begich, our guest here on the program for running for U.S. House. All right. Well, let's hope that he makes it through quickly, and hope that the rest of you who are out there to go early voting get it done with a quickness. Because I mean, I thought it was going to be quick. I thought that election was going to be quick. As well, because it was like 1:30 on a Friday afternoon, but it was still 2 hours, of stuff going on, waiting around and hanging out with people. But it was good. Everybody was happy. All different sizes, shapes, ages, colors, creeds. I mean, everybody was there. It was good to see, and I was very happy to watch people wait through that 2 hour line, and it was still at least a 2 hour line when we left, because the end of the line was right about where we started when we left. So people were still going there. All right. I've got one full segment here, plus the end of this segment here to continue with you, our listeners. So you tell me, who are you voting for and why? And have you early voted? And why did you early vote? Especially if you've never early voted before. We've had a few people in the chat room say why they haven't, even people who kind of held their nose and said, okay, I'm going to early vote just because, just because I don't really want to, but I will because it makes sense. So you tell me, 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. And you tell us why you want to, why you voted, who you're voting for, and everything else. This is your last chance to exhort for your personal candidate, whether it's for president or for Congress or for state house or for state senate, whatever. You can tell us here why you're voting for who, or why you have already voted for who. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say here. Give us a ring, 319-527-3864. Fairbanks had long lines for early voting. They all had a cell phone in their hands waiting. I mean, I was listening to an audiobook while I stood in line for 2 hours. So yeah, I hear you. Bring a doodle pad or bring a good book while you're there. You'll want to do that as well. I'm going back through some of the comments here. There's some of the questions. Kathleen asks the question, for those who are concerned about their ballot being counted, is there anywhere we can call or email to verify that they show a particular name voting? I don't think that happens, Kathleen, until after the election, and then the Division of Elections, after they mark your name off the list, when you're standing there voting and you show your ID and you sign the page, that's when they remark the list to show that you have voted. I don't know. I don't think that there's any way that you can email or call or find out if they showed a particular name voting. I know that you can get the voter registration stuff later on, but I think it's many days after Election Day. That's the thing. All right. And yes, if you want to go out there and take a look at some of the best stuff for the campaign, somebody just said you can just Google ADN Nick and Peltola, and it will give you to the ADN debates. and the Anchorage debates and the Fairbanks debates. You should be able to find all those debates online at this point, and you can decide for yourself what you want to do. All right, let me go over to the phones here. Larry's on the line. Let's see what he has to say this morning, and we'll put him on hold first.
All participants are muted.
There we go. Now let's get Larry and pull him into the chat room here and see what he has to say. Good morning, Larry. What's on your mind? Hello? Are you with me? Larry? All right. Well, apparently Larry is just hanging out in the chat room. Let's go to this next caller and see what they have to say. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
North Pole, Bonnie.
Oh, hello, Bonnie. What's on your mind?
Well, good morning to you, Mr. Michael Dukes.
Good.
I voted for Trump and I voted for Begich.
Okay.
I voted early because I poll watch after that. I'm a poll watcher, so.
So you wanted to get in and get it done ahead of time so that you could watch early and or watch later without having to worry about voting yourself.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate the call. That leaves all the lines open at 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. I'd be interested to hear what folks down on the peninsula are saying, especially since some of the races down there are a little more contentious, specifically the Senate race down there between Bjorkman and Carpenter. What are your guys' thoughts on that as well? And how are you feeling about the election overall? What are your thoughts on that? Feel free to give us a call again, 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. And what are your guys' thoughts here on this division of elections thing too? I mean, at this point, I feel like somebody has got to somebody's got to kind of do a house cleaning over at the division of elections with the three major faux pas that they've all thrown in the mix now, which with the mismarking of the ranked choice sample ballot with a candidate named Harris being ranked first for president, the fact that they mislabeled Mia Costello as a Democrat instead of a Republican, although she's been a lifelong Republican. And now this whole thing with all these ballots in Southwest Alaska being sent the wrong ballots. And I guess there was one more thing where they couldn't get the division of elections, was it early voting or it was the primary? In some of these places, they couldn't get them open. They didn't have them open in time for people to actually vote in rural Alaska. And I know there's challenges. There's logistical challenges for sure. But I mean, you had one job, right? This is your job. Division of elections is right there in the title. This is your job. I would think that you would have this stuff kind of squared away. I mean, I think that I will be calling for more changes or maybe a full review of what's going on. Oh, wait, they already did a full review of what was going on in the division of elections, and then they hid the report. I remember that now. I remember that vaguely. All right, let's go over here. One more phone call before we run out of time for this segment. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Morning, this is Bubba calling from North Pole.
Hey, Bubba.
And I just, one of the ads against Nick, I voted for Nick. I voted for Donald Trump. One of the ads against Nick where they're talking about he wants to take away Social Security. And it's just a blatant lie. But they said because he called it a Ponzi scheme. My definition of a Ponzi scheme is where you put money in, but to pay the money out, you got to rob from the people that aren't getting close yet because you've already spent my money. They're going to take it from someone else's money that's going to retire in 20 years. That's a Ponzi scheme to me. The money's not there. They're taking it. The money's not there because they've spent it. And it is a Ponzi scheme and it needs to be fixed. I don't know why they're putting that down. That's the truth. We're not trying to take the money away from Social Security. We're trying to make sure Social Security is still there.
Right.
But there was no lashing back, and that frustrated me.
Yeah, no, it is frustrating to see that kind of misnomer and stuff go out there. I mean, he was talking about the funding mechanism. He wasn't talking about Social Security in general, but like I said, James Brooks over at the Alaska Beacon actually wrote a rebuttal piece about the whole Ponzi scheme comment and said, look, this is taken in context. This is taken out of context, and it doesn't mean what you think it means. And I thought that was really well done. But yeah, they're going to latch on to anything they can. And like Nick said, they'll take stuff out of context. If they can't find anything bad enough, they'll take something out of context and make it bad enough. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's just frustrating to see all the lies that are going on.
Yeah.
And for Mary Patola to be endorsed by the NRA, which, you know what, that just had me call up the NRA and say, hey, I want to have my life membership, discarded. I'm not a member anymore as far as I'm concerned, just because they endorsed Mary Patola. Why did they endorse her?
Yeah.
What has she done? She's worked hard to get a military there raised. She pushed through to get the military there raised. Well, no, she made a vote, and that was it. She didn't sponsor a bill.
Right.
Anyhow.
All right. Well,
it's just a truthfulness.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much,
Okay, you got other callers.
Bubba, for giving us a call and telling us your thoughts this morning. Definitely appreciate you being on the program today. That leaves all four lines open, 319-527-3864. The Michael Duke Show continues. We're going to return here in just a moment. One final segment dead ahead. And I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but phone lines will be open. So if you want to call in and tell me why you early voted this year, I'd love to hear that. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Well, let's continue ahead here, shall we? I just made a mistake here. Give me 1 second here. I got 10 seconds to fix it, and I'm going to fix it right now. Okay. All right. Okay. How are you guys doing? How's it going? How's it you guys ready for another beautiful day here? Somebody just said something about Peanut the squirrel. Peanut the squirrel. The pet was euthanized. Oh. I have no idea seized and euthanized by authorities. Panelist Scott Jennings says Peanut the squirrel, a social media star that was seized and euthanized by authorities, deserves justice. Okay. This is the thing. Apparently, this is the thing. He was an Instagram star. I didn't know that. I didn't know that he was. I have no idea who Peanut the squirrel is. Somebody said Mike doesn't even bring up the most important story of the day was Peanut the squirrel. Okay. Brian asked, did Bonnie rank Hafner? I did. I ranked Hafner because, I mean, they said it's important. So I ranked Hafner. I also got a chance to vote for Chase Oliver, which was exciting. That was all fun and games there. Good morning. Gail says, I'm all out of kudos for Nancy Dahlstrom. She dropped out, and that is the only decent thing she's done. I mean, I think she's a nice lady, and she did drop out. I would hope that the Division of Elections, I would hope that she would be taking a hard look at what's going on in the Division of Elections. Like I said, you had one job. And if that one job can't get done without a bunch of errors, then, maybe we should be absolutely cleaning house at the Division of Elections, as Terry says here. All right, vote for Peanut. Peanut, the TikTok star. You know what? This is how out of touch I am. You guys are all in touch here. Fat Ray says, can't believe Michael didn't bring up the most impactful story of the weekend, Peanut the squirrel. I'm just, again, I didn't even know about Peanut the squirrel. I had to Google it to figure out what's going on. Apparently it was a rescued squirrel on the streets of New York that became an Instagram or TikTok star or something, because it's a cute little squirrel in a cowboy hat. And now the authorities ratted out the guy who had it, and they seized it and euthanized it because, this is why we can't have fun. Government. This is why we can't have, have nice things. So yeah, I blame it on the government right there. Kathleen said, I waited for line in an hour first Tuesday at the borough to vote for Nick. No on 1, yes on 2, no on all judges, and Trump. Okay, good enough. Wear warm socks, bring snacks. Standing outside gets cold. Yeah, they were saying people were kind of bouncing around trying to stay warm outside. Heather says, why early vote? Why not just wait until tomorrow? Waiting tomorrow for us, voting for Nick Begich. Heather, I think the reason that a lot of us have early voted is because of concerns about weather and timing and everything else. I worried about it because of the weather, because, it dumped 7 inches of snow the first time it snowed here. And now, like Kenai tomorrow, there's a huge winter storm warning for the Kenai tomorrow. And so maybe you go out and vote early just to make sure that you actually get your vote so you don't get stuck or, something else comes around. Let's see. Tawny says, the reason I won't vote early, except at the beginning of the early voting cycle, is because when the vote is counted, November 20th is the day to count early votes after the cutoff. Yeah. That's the thing. I think somebody else said that if you had voted before Thursday, your votes were all counted on election day. But if you voted Friday or Saturday, Sunday, or tomorrow or today, it's not counted till afterwards. That's one or the other. We'll figure it out. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Okay, welcome back to the program. Thanks for coming in and joining us. The Michael Duke Show continues. One final segment on this pre-election day, Election Day Eve. Man, Christmas is coming in then. It's just around the corner. Kind of excited about that, quite honestly. All right, let's go back over to the phones and see what you guys have to say. The phone lines are open. I'd love to hear why you early voted, who you early voted for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Etc. Let's see what you have to say. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Bob calling from Seward.
Hey, Bob.
I haven't talked to you in a while. Hey, I early voted. I didn't want the lines either. Encouraged as many of my friends to vote too. But the judges, to me, that's one of the bigger issues because they pretty much have their own little fiefdom there, or kingdom, or whatever you want to call it. They can exclude the critical evidence in the case, taint the jury. They basically can do whatever they want. The grand jury indicted one of the judges from Homer, and it has gone absolutely nowhere. And
right.
It tells you how corrupt the system is there. So vote no on all judges, period, all times.
Well, and yeah,
Vote no until we get some decent ones in there.
Yeah, Bob, I mean, I think the biggest thing with the judges, and I've never understood this whole retention of judges when we don't have any real information. There's no easy access. I'm not saying that judges should have to run for office. I mean, that would probably politicize it more, but there should at least be some kind of mechanism where we understood who did what and when, right? I mean, otherwise it's just a list of names that if you're not intimately familiar with the justice system, you really don't know who these guys are. I mean, the only reason we know who Zeman is because of his vote on the school funding thing. That's the only reason why his name is really being thrown out there. But otherwise, we just don't know. So we just keep blithely saying yes to a bunch of judges who we don't have any input on who goes in there, right? I mean, those are all picked by the governor and the Alaska Bar Association. The Judicial Council is the one that recommends them, and then then they get put in. I mean, I don't even know. There's got to be some mechanism to understand more about what's going on rather than just a blithely voting yes.
Well, I mean, with Gist and Kenai, he excluded critical evidence that should have been allowed in the case against the guy that killed my son. And because of that, the guy walked. I mean, he killed two people with premeditated intent. I mean, he had evidence that he excluded from the trial, and that was just it was wrong. And I mean, they argued before they put me on the stand. They argued like almost 2 hours before the end. Then they had decided on the two questions that the prosecutor could ask me.
Wow. Well,
that was just ridiculous.
Yeah, no.
And this murderer is running around. He's happy about it.
Well,
he bragged about it.
Like you said,
that's why I vote no on the judges.
Yeah, I just vote no on all judges because we don't have enough information. I'm not going to vote yes if I don't have enough information on it, for sure. All right, Bob. Well, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate you sounding off today. Thank you. Oops, vote early. I just accidentally cut Bob off. Sorry, Bob. Vote early, I think is what Bob was trying to say. Let's go over here to this phone call. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. My name's Mike, calling from Fairbanks.
Hey, Mike. What's on your mind?
So my wife and I early voted. We're conservatives and Christians, and we wanted to get our vote done before the regular day so we didn't stand in too long of a line. Went at 8 o'clock in the morning at our state building here in Fairbanks and didn't wait very long. They had the line moving pretty quick, so that was all real good. I wanted to put in a little extra here if I can. I'd work at a polling station. So when people come to their polling station on election day, they get a ballot that is specific to that polling station,
right,
which is important if you're voting in a state race. And then you vote that, you feed it into the machine. The machine counts your votes, but your paper ballot also sits in the bottom of that box as a backup to counting. So that all works pretty well. If you early vote, you still get to vote your district's ballot, but each voting box has a slew of different district ballots in it. So those people have to separate those ballots later and count them by districts. Well, anyway, it's a little more complicated when you early vote. I just think it's important to vote, and early voting gets you in there for sure, and just in case something funny happens on election day.
Yeah, no, I agree. And in fact, they put a sticker on our ballots for the district we were in so that they could be, so they could be seen, right away which district it was in. And then the borough, I think, had, or the state had color coded for different districts, if I recall correctly, on the thing there. So, yeah, so they're doing everything they can. And then they had two different drop boxes, one for the federal ballot and one for the state borough ballot. So, I mean, I think they were doing their best to try and keep it organized, but yeah, I mean, once I voted, I feel like it's a load off my mind. Either they have the physical ballot or it gets counted in a machine, one way or the other. Either way, I know I've done my duty and I can move on from there.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. Appreciate you calling in and joining us this morning and giving us your thoughts on this. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864 is the phone number. If you want to sound off and tell me why you think why you early voted or who you voted for. Kathleen, who asked the question earlier about, is there a way to check? She said, for those who are concerned about their ballots being counted, is there any way we can call or email to verify that they show a particular name voting? And I said, probably not until after Election Day. And then she asked the question, then she says, then how does my voting location know if I early voted already? Well, that's the thing. First of all, you're signing, when you go in there, you sign a ballot, you sign the envelope saying under penalty of perjury that you have only voted once. And that if, so those ballots are held and then compared later on. So they don't really know per se that you've already early voted, but if you do, they will have both envelopes and there'll be some questions for you later on, right? So that's the bigger question there on that, Kathleen. All right, one last call here before we go for the today over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
If it's for me, I'm Eric. I'm from Kenai.
Hey, Eric. What's on
I just wanted to put a plug in for Ben Carpenter. I know him personally. He's a very hardworking guy. And, excuse me, I just lost my breath. His opponent is an NEA-sponsored, union-sponsored guy.
Right.
And he chose to go into a binding caucus, which I think is a bad choice for different legislatures.
Right.
So that's my thoughts there.
So you're voting for Ben Carpenter then?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Eric. Well, thank you for calling in and sharing your thoughts with us. Have you early voted, or are you going to vote tomorrow?
I did vote. Yep, I've already voted.
Already voted. Okay. All right. Why did you early vote? Just out of curiosity.
The little station was on my way to someplace that had a little bit of time.
Nice.
Took about 10 minutes and in and out, got it done.
Way you go. All right. Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. Thanks for calling in. All right, folks, that's it. Today's the last day to vote. Polls are open now till 5 p.m. for early voting. Tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So get out there and vote. Let your voice be heard. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Okay. Well, that about does it for me today, folks. Lots of stuff to do. Lots of people to see. Judges need to be elected, said Terry. Let's see what else. They should start. Jim says they should start early voting 10 to 11 months out. Oof. Jim says, or Bill says, I'll be there tomorrow morning, come hell or high snowfall. Oh man. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. All right. Is there a backup plan or a plan of action if the weather closes the polls? I don't know. Debbie, I would assume there would have to be some way. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. Tawny says you could see if you voted on the Division of Elections website. Is it automated? It's updated in real time, Tawny? I hope so. All right. All right, folks. Well, that does it for today. We will see you guys tomorrow with Brad Keithley and Chris Story. So Make sure you hang out with us then. Come on out and join us. Make sure you go out and vote today or tomorrow. You can't vote on Wednesday. Tomorrow's the final day. So go out and get it done. Do your civic duty. And now Barbara's asking if Tawny has a link for that senior voting record. All right, we got to go, folks. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.